Are you thinking of buying a Mazda 3? Well, maybe hold off for a little bit, at least until you've checked out one of these. This is the Mazda CX-30. It's basically a Mazda 3. It's the same car underneath. It's just raised up a little bit, but it offers heaps more legroom at the back and better visibility at the back and more boot space. It still looks quite nice. It's got Mazda's latest design theme in the front end with pointed headlights. Looks very sophisticated with the metallic or the chrome trimming there, underscoring the headlights. And then curvaceous body with bulging wheel arches, except there's some SUV character here with black plastic wheel arches just to protect it from the side if you're going to go into the bush. Although I doubt you'll get very far in the bush with any of these sort of crossover style models. Another good thing is you can get the CX-30 with all-wheel drive, which is what we've got here. Do you really need all-wheel drive? Not necessarily, but if you're going to the snow or something like that, or if you live on a steep driveway or driving on dirt roads regularly, then all-wheel drive can definitely help out. In my opinion, all-wheel drive is safer anyway. It doesn't matter if you're driving never driving on the dirt, sorry. It's just better stability. So you've got power going to all four wheels, or it can go to all four wheels. So this features an on-demand type of system where if there's front slip, it will send some power to the back. But even that is still a benefit over a normal front-wheel drive setup. Say you're driving along the highway or something like that and it's pouring down rain, you're going through some puddles and things, starts aquaplaning, you'll have power sent to the back to provide that stability so it doesn't sort of rotate around on itself, or unlikely to anyway. Inside, we've got a beautiful interior. Mazda always do very nice interiors. I like the way that it is still a car in here, even though it is quite modern. I like the way they've kept everything in traditional spots. Like you've got a proper analog instrument cluster there. You do have a screen up on the dash, which is nice, but it's not intrusive. It doesn't take over the whole dashboard. It's just, yep, this has got a infotainment system. We'll just tuck it away up there. And then a conventional gear stick, and some buttons around, and the MZD Connect controller to control the touchscreen. You've got a good amount of storage as well, although I think it's a bit wasted around here because you've just got those cup holders and then a tray at the front. But you do have a nice big center console box. Inside, passenger space is really good. I think it feels more spacious than a Mazda 3, even in the front. Probably because you're just a bit higher up and you just get that better visibility, or a perception of better visibility. So it just feels a bit more spacious in here. It's a nice touchscreen system. I won't go into the full detail because that'll get a bit boring, but everything is there, and it's got this hand controller. I really like these hand controllers because you can be looking straight ahead. You just glance over and just see what you need to toggle through, and then you can keep your eyes focused on the road, as opposed to, you know, reaching your finger out and pushing something. And then down below it does have a separate climate control panel, which is great, including a separate aircon button and your recycle and so on, and your temperature control on the sides. Dual zone in this model. You've got some vents for the passenger side and enough vents in the front for the driver, one on each side. All the trim feels really nice. It's all soft. I don't know whether any of it is leather or real leather, but it definitely feels nice and soft and high quality. And then down below you've got some traditional elephant skin style plastic. It's not really scratchy. It is quite hard rather than just cheap feeling, so it does feel quite robust, like it might stand the test of time. And a nice metallic lever there for the glove box, and some chrome trimmings to provide that elegant touch. Just to give you an idea of the visibility, that's my eyesight there. I'm 170 centimeters tall, pretty short in other words, and I can see very clearly. I can see over the windowsill very easily, and I can also see through the gap between the pillar, it's a pretty narrow pillar, and the mirror. And then out the back you've got a good view through the rear windscreen. I mean, it's not the best, but I think it's better than the Mazda 3. The Mazda 3's got very thick C-pillars or D-pillars right at the back there. You've got the C-pillar first, that little one, and then the back one is D. But in the Mazda 3, it's kind of a huge chunk in the corner, taking up all of that space through there. Whereas that, that little window doesn't do much, but at least you've got a clear view out the back main rear windscreen. We'll check out the back seats and I'll show you what I mean with the extra space. I've got my seat in a comfortable position and I've got plenty of room to put my legs and feet. It's not even touching the seat there. And yeah, I feel like I've got plenty of space to go on a nice long drive. My head's nowhere near the ceiling. Even if you're much taller than me, I don't think you'd be hitting the ceiling. It's probably that seat would come back if that driver was a bit taller than me and then a tall person in the back. You'd obviously close that gap there. It does have climate vents in the back, but it doesn't have any charging ports, which is a little bit behind times now. I think a lot of new vehicles have charging ports even in the back. So to have this to have that missing, it could be a bit of a problem if this is going to be your family car, but if you're just using this as a general duties sort of run around, then that's going to be no problem at all. I actually do like this red trim. It just provides a bit of contrast. And it's quite dark, so it's not going to show the dirt too easily. But as I've said before, or you may have heard me say before, I don't mind light-coloured trim because it does show the dirt, and I know when to clean it. Whereas if it's an all-black trim, you don't really know that you're sitting on filth for the entire life of the vehicle, really, because the seats are just they won't show the dirt. In other words, whereas something like this, I think, is a good blend where it's provides a bit of contrast, but it's not too dark that it will show every single piece of dirt that lands on it. And it's split up with a white ceiling, so that provides good light, and then all the main touch points are black. So you're not going to have really grubby handle or hand marks all down your handle there. That stays black. It's just the seats give it that extra little elegant touch. And in the back, we have a decent sized boot. It just goes a bit further in compared with the Mazda 3, and it feels like it's a bit wider as well, but I'll flash up the exact specs now so you can see the difference. And you've got a space saver spare wheel and some dirty gym clothes. We'll take it for a drive and I'll show you what it's like. The handling is very nice. I like the ride, the suspension setup. It's a little bit firm and a bit taut, which I like. And if you're driving on country roads in Australia with a lot of bumps and patchwork, I think a setup like this is better than a really soft setup, which might be more comfortable on the highway. But yeah, if you do drive on country roads regularly, something like this is a very good balance in my opinion. We'll do the performance test as well later on. I don't think I've actually tested the all-wheel drive CX-30, even on the old P-Drive TV channel. I may have in the very early days when it first came out, but I don't think I've tested all-wheel drive recently anyway, so I don't actually know how the performance will shape up. It's a 2.5 litre, naturally aspirated, doesn't provide heaps of torque low down as per naturally aspirated engines. Some of the turbo models that are out, the rivals, they do provide better response actually. You might think turbo lag, but that's not really an issue these days. It actually the turbo provides a lot of low down torque, whereas this doesn't have much low down torque. You have to rev it out. But anyway, we'll get in and go for a drive and I'll show you what I mean. There is some road roar on very rough surfaces, as to be expected. I don't think I've ever driven a vehicle along here that doesn't make some noise. It is uncovering a little rattle in the dash. Not sure if you can hear that. It's not too bad though, like it really does shake apart and vibrate the car driving on roads like this. So there's always something, but overall the vehicle feels, yeah, very well made, very well put together. Quality, everything to touch is very nice as well. The steering wheel feels really nice, and the door handles and everything, they all feel really nice. I think this is a good lesson in how to build a good standard car. You know, it's not promising to be a luxury car, and it's not priced like a luxury car, but you are starting to get towards that just with the design and the materials used in here. The ride comfort is perfect in my opinion. I like it to be a little bit taut. I wouldn't say this is firm at all. It's just a little bit firmer than some rivals which might be a bit too soft. If you're not driving on roads like this ever, or all that often, then yeah, you might think that, or you might see that some other rivals are more comfortable, but I think this is totally fine. You can hit speed bumps and things, and it doesn't, bounce excessively. You can hit little potholes, I mean, not on purpose, but if you accidentally hit a piece of patchwork, it doesn't fully, change the stability of the vehicle. But then the upshot is when you need to tackle some corners, it handles really nice, and the body's very composed. There's no excessive body roll. The tires are pretty tall, so they're probably the the sort of weakest link, if you like. But yeah, it feels very nice to drive through corners. The handling, the overall handling actually is very good. For this style of vehicle, I think it handles superbly, it really does. Compared with the Mazda 3, look, you really need to get it on a track to find the difference or experience the difference, because to me it feels exactly the same. You just get a bit more suspension travel, so you can soak up big bumps and things, and the center of gravity is going to be a little bit higher. But yeah, in the real world, does that matter in a vehicle like this? You just want to use it to get to work and things and pick up the kids or whatever. It's not really going to make a huge difference, but I think it handles very nicely. I think it feels a bit sporty. It's fun to drive on winding roads, but at the same time, yeah, you're not losing any benefit of the Mazda 3, in my opinion anyway. As for this engine, it is a little bit thrashy and a bit noisy. I'll just slow down a bit. You do have paddle shifters here. I'll go back to third. It's only a 6-speed automatic as well. And we'll actually hit the rev limiter. That's pretty cool. In a vehicle like this, you'd expect it just to upshift automatically. I'll just slow down a bit and show you the kick down. There's no cars behind me. So yeah, it goes okay, but yeah, a little bit noisy, especially compared with some of the more modern engines out at the moment that are turbocharged. Turbochargers usually quieten the engine down because they kind of work like a muffler. The exhaust actually goes through the fan and it just quietens things down, but I can hear the actual engine. It's not the exhaust pipe making the sound, it's the engine at the front. It's just a little bit noisy. The performance is decent though. It's what you'd expect. It's not overly slow like some vehicles out there. Some rivals that are really slow, like the Subaru Crosstrek. It's just, there's no reason it should be that slow, whereas this performs adequately. It does what you need it to do. It'll go up hills and things with a full car load, and you don't feel like you're completely straining it, but it will provide decent fuel economy as well. I think they need an 8-speed though. I think that'll really help with acceleration, and also it could bring down the fuel economy. So we're averaging 11.6 so far, and that's pretty high, very high actually for a 4-cylinder. I have just done the performance testing though, so I'd suggest that can go down to maybe 9 or 9.5, but even that is still quite high for a little SUV. Speaking of the performance testing though, let's head out now and see what it goes like.